Extreme ownership. Leaders must own everything in their world. There's no one else to blame. That's a quote from Jocko Willink. That is going to be the focus of our topic for today's business lesson, which is the ownership mentality and extreme ownership in general. We're going to talk about the correlation between self-accountability and ownership and success. Let's get started. Business 101, today's lesson, extreme ownership. The reason I want to bring this topic to the conversation, to the forefront at the beginning of the series of things that we're doing is because this isn't a well talked about topic. It's not something that people really take a lot of interest in on a regular basis unless they are focused and constantly trying to grow and evolve as a leader. Extreme ownership, what does that mean? So Jocko Willink said it perfectly. He said, the leader owns everything in their world. And what does that mean as a business owner? Now, there's plenty of times where there's small successes, there's increased levels of successes as you grow, as you expand. You own that opportunity, you created that opportunity. That was a manifestation of all the ideas that you had that led up to it, the planning, the execution, and the carry out, right? However, you also own every error, right? There's no one else to blame. This is your idea. This is the manifestation of you. This is 100% a product of what you wanted and you brought it into this world. I have a lot of really interesting examples that I can bring for this that's relatable to roofing and construction, but I'm just going to go with one that's really recent. So I was recently brought in on I guess I call it a second level escalation. Customer service people know what I'm talking about, but this is where a client is severely irritated. They're completely disappointed in what they got from us. And nobody at any smaller level besides the owner could potentially get to their, into their mind, figure out what's going on and create a solution that's going to be amicable for both sides. So went to these clients' houses, and what I found out was there was errors and balls dropped on at least 4 of my team members' behalves, different team members throughout the process. Additionally, there was a ball dropped by subcontractors. Now, we work with a mix, right? There's people who do work in-house, and there's people who do that we have a trade partnership agreement with, and they come and they do work on our behalf in accordance with the requirements of that trade partnership agreement. So the thing about it is the owner, when you go and you stare at this problem and this person, disappointment in the face, I could have stood there and said, well, I can see why he did this wrong. I can see where this is wrong. This is his fault. This is his fault. And that's not even our company. They were just somebody I sent out here to do the work, right? But where are you going to get with that type of mindset? Where are you going to get in terms of evolving if you don't take accountability? There is nobody else to blame, as the quote said. So I stared at in the face. We had a conversation. I knew exactly where in my processes that these balls were dropped and why they were dropped there. But I stood there and I said, this is my fault. These people are a reflection of my leadership. These people are a reflection of my business. I hired them. It was my job to make sure they were trained and managed accordingly so that they would execute at the form and fashion I wanted them to, and they didn't. And I'm going to assume responsibility for that. I made no error on this account. In fact, I didn't even know this account's name until the second level escalation, really came into effect. But what really resonated with me was it was a new opportunity. I needed to see those 4 different errors that happened across the board within the 15 steps in that particular action plan or that particular workflow. And I needed to know where I needed to put my effort and my emphasis and my time and drive a better product out of it. So in creating and having this ownership over this idea and being self-accountable to these people who are a reflection of me and my ideas, I also found ways to re-implement that into my processes, find smarter automations, find smarter ways of doing business just by the simple statements that these people made, and we evolved as a business. If you don't have the capacity or the intestinal fortitude to be able to own every error, just like you're owning every success, you're not the right person for the job, and you need to change your mindset. There's another book out there that I like to issue out to all my managers. It's called The 13 Fatal Errors That a Manager Can Make and How Not to Make Them. And the very, very first error of these 13 errors, the premise of this book is essentially If you can avoid these 13 things as a manager or as a leader in an organization, you're probably going to be pretty darn good at your job. The very, very first one is self-accountability. Why is self-accountability so important? If you're not willing to admit your faults, you're not willing to say the words, I don't know, but I'm going to go find this for you, and you make up some kind of answer, if you're not willing to fix something you broke, you will never gain the trust of the people around you. Thus, you will never be able to lead these people into another evolution within that workflow or that step or that piece of life that you're walking them through. So self-accountability, the ability to own not only the successes and the failures and find ways to become better, right? Self-accountability, self-reflection, and extreme ownership and success all have the same correlated value. The more you are able to identify your problems and own those problems, the more successful as an organization you're going to become, because every time that you approach these things and you're willing to take that hit because somebody or you or something within your process didn't work, you can take it and you can identify the problem, you can evaluate where this problem started, you can implement a plan of action, and then you can execute it a higher form of action afterwards. If you cannot do that, you are far behind where you need to be as an entrepreneur or in whatever growth pattern you're trying to create in your life. In order to be good, in order to be successful, you need to take extreme ownership over what it is that you want and see it through to the finish line. Whether it's the good, the bad, the ugly, the wins and the losses, you take ownership over it. There's nobody else you can blame. Let's not get it twisted. Extreme ownership versus credit thieving. These are two different things. When you have a team of people, yes, it may be your idea. Yes, you may have created all of the opportunity that created the funding that built the new opportunity, and you are also paying these people to do the things and execute your master plan. You have ownership over the ideas, you have ownership over the intellectual property, you have ownerships over the wins and the losses, all of it. But you don't have ownership over the credit. And that's one thing that you always have to realize as an owner. Give credit what credit's due. You put this person in this place, you ask them to create something, but if you take away their credit when they have a big win and they're victorious, you're going to tear down your ability to lead this person from that day forward, right? So ownership, when I talk about ownership in that sense, is you are owning all of the outcomes and everything that are around you within the world that you work, but you're giving freely the credit to the people that put in the hours and put in the dedicated effort and actually had elbow grease in the project. Remember that. All right, many leadership authors, many scholars, and many books have been published on the idea that there are only two types of people in this world. There are people with a victim mindset and there are people with an owner's mindset. Which one are you? I can attest to you that I've stuck myself in this position. It's not fun. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. When you take ownership over what's going on, you take ownership over the errors that you've created, that friction, that pressure, that heat that you feel, it's forming you into a better version of yourself, and you can go out and you can strike. If you're in that victim mentality, you should evaluate what you're doing in this life and see if there's something else you can change. Start to take ownership over what you're doing, and let's push you over towards that success route. That's all for now. Again, business lessons with Christian. This is Pride Roofing and Construction. Please like and subscribe, comment below. I have an extreme amount of ideas that I'd like to bring in front of you, but I want to make sure this is relevant to you. So if you have anything you'd like us to talk about, you got some book references you'd like us to read into, anything we want to integrate into this conversation, let's do it. This is a team, and let's get better all around. Catch you on the flip side.